Hello everybody, this is Joanne Musa, the Tax Lien Lady, and tonight we are talking about Start Investing in Tax Liens Now. That is the title of our presentation tonight, our webinar training tonight. And I'm really excited to have you on the call with me tonight. I'm going to give you some new information, and you'll see if you've been on my webinars before, you'll see some stuff that you've seen before, because I always like to let the new people know a little bit about myself. So let's get started and find out how you can start investing in tax liens now. The whole idea of this presentation is to get you beyond what is ever holding you back. And I've got some feedback from you, and we're going to go over some of those things towards the end of this webinar. So stay with us. And this is me, the Tax Lien Lady, and that is a book that I co-authored. I was a contributing author to the book, Trust Your Heart, Transform Your Ideas into Income, along with 18 other entrepreneurs. And that book's available on Amazon.com. You can even find a link to it on my blog, TaxLienInvestingTips.com. But my story is in that book. I'm not going to go through it now, but if you want to know my story about how I got started with tax lien investing and how I got started online with my website, it's in that book. And I've been a trainer since, well, I'll tell you a little bit about myself as we go along, but this is what we're going to talk about today. I want you to know the truth about tax lien investing. I'm pretty blunt about that. I don't pull any punches. I don't always tell people what they want to hear, but I'm going to tell you the truth. And here are the 5 things that we are going to cover in tonight's training. One of the things I like to talk about, my theme really for this year, is to prepare, protect, and profit. And we do it a little bit differently at each of the webinars I go over some different things. And today, when we talk about prepare, we're talking about preparing to be successful as a tax lien investor. And so we're going to talk a little bit about what is a tax lien for the new people that are on. My people that have been with me, you've heard this before, so bear with me. Okay, we're going to go over some new stuff. Then we're going to talk about protecting your money. And we're going to talk about 3 myths about tax liens, because I don't want you to fall for any of these, okay? And then we're going to get into how you profit. And this is where I'm going to share some stuff that I've never shared before, because I'm going to show you what you really can expect from tax liens. I'm going to show you results that I had just this past year. And then we're going to go over how to get started now. And for that, what we're going to talk about tonight is finding the tax sale information, where you go to find that. And then we're going to talk about overcoming your obstacles, the things that are holding you back. And I got a lot of feedback when you guys registered for this webinar. People that registered up until the middle of today. Actually, if you registered like a couple hours before this webinar, I'm sorry I didn't get your input, but I did get a lot of input for this. So I'm going to answer your questions and concerns about that. And then I'm going to tell you how to get started. So let's get started now. Well, first of all, this is my disclaimer. I am not a CPA or certified financial planner. This information is for educational purposes. It's not legal or financial advice. I'm not a lawyer. And it's up to you to do your research on the information that I give you to determine whether it's valid. But what I'm going to share with you are proven success strategies that may or may not produce the same result for you that it has produced for me and for my students. Okay, it's kind of up to you. And everybody starts at a different place too. You know, everybody has a different amount of time and money and know-how to invest. But here's a little bit about why you might want to listen to me. And those of you that have been on my webinars, this is just going to be a repeat for you, so just bear with me. But for new people, I got started in tax lien investing since 2002, so I've been doing it for 10 years, not a very long time. I know people that have been doing it a lot longer, but in that time I've been able to not only buy tax liens for myself and my family, but also to train others how to do it, and not only in this country but around the world. I've been teaching others to invest since 2004, and I've been online with my website, taxlienlady.com. Now I have multiple websites and blogs, but it all started in 2005 with taxlienlady.com. And I've purchased hundreds of liens, and you know what? If I can do it, so can you, because as I told you before, I am not well, I didn't tell you this, but I never had any experience in real estate except for purchasing my own house. So I didn't know anything about real estate. I wasn't a financial guru. I really didn't know anything when I got involved in tax liens, but I was able to train and educate myself as well as thousands of people worldwide. So guys, it's not rocket science. Anybody can do this, and if I can do it, so can you. All right. So where I began when I started my website back in 2005, what I did is I started interviewing experts about tax lien investing, different aspects of tax lien investing. I interviewed different experts around the country, and lo and behold, now some of these guys are interviewing me. But here is a webinar that I did with Rick Dawson recently about free and clear foreclosures. This is another expert that I've done interviews for him, and he's done interviews for me. He does something a little bit different, and that is buying tax deed properties before they go to the tax sale. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, you can find this webinar, by the way, on my blog at taxlieninvestingtips.com. You can just search for those under those words, free and clear foreclosures, on my blog, taxlieninvestingtips.com. Now, this is a webinar that I did with Don Fullman and Charles Sells. Actually, I've done a lot of webinars with them. They are Pip West, a tax lien investing agent, and they will be at my seminar. I'm having a live seminar on April 14th. I'll tell you more about that towards the end of this webinar, and they will be there. I've also been asked to be on the Tax Lien Investing panel for the last 3 years at Equity Trust Company's networking conference, and so that's what that picture is right there. That's me in the middle at the Tax Lien Investing Conference on the Tax Lien Investing panel. Now, so what we're going to talk about again is how to prepare, protect, and profit. We're going to prepare to invest in that should say in tax liens profitably. Okay, little typo there. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, and we're going to protect our investment. We're going to talk a little bit about that, and I'm going to show you how to profit from tax liens. So let's see what we're going to do tonight. First, we're going to talk about the preparation, and one of the things that we're going to talk to about that has to do about preparing tonight is knowing what a tax lien is. So municipalities cannot meet their budget without collecting taxes, okay, and property taxes I'm talking about, and they need this money to pay school teachers, pave roads, policemen, firemen, you know, everything that the municipalities and the counties do. They need this money to make their budget. So when you don't pay your taxes, they still need that money. So they have a choice. They can either just sell your property, which some states do, they're called deed states, or they can sell the taxes to investors. And they do this at an auction, and investors bid for the right to pay the taxes. And the reason why they would want that right is because they get the same interest that the county or municipality would normally charge. Now, we're talking here between 8% is the lowest, okay, that any county charges that I know of, and 36% is the highest, and that is Illinois. Illinois is 18% per 6 months, okay? And that's usually per annum, except with Illinois it's actually a penalty. It's not per annum. So actually, if your lien redeems in the 7th month, you still get 36% on your money. That is if you got that maximum rate, that 18% rate. Remember, at some of these tax sales, that interest rate is bid down. And there are different things that happen at these tax sales. But basically, you can get interest in even 8% today is not bad, especially when it's not tied to the stock market or any market. The market could crash and you don't lose your money. You still get the same interest rate. Okay, your interest rate is guaranteed by state law. And your investment is guaranteed by the property. Okay, so that's how that works. Now, this is what we went over last time. I did a webinar last month, and the name of that webinar was why smart investors are choosing tax liens in 2012. And in that webinar, and you can get a replay of that webinar on my blog as well, and in that webinar we talked about the 5 steps to buying good liens. So I'm just going to review that for you. I'm not going to go over it tonight because we did that last month. But here are the 5 steps, and I'm using the acronym, the word STEPS. The first S is to select where you will invest, and then the T is track down the tax sale information. And we're going to talk about that a little bit tonight because that is one of the things that that tonight's program is about. And E is evaluate the tax sale properties. And the P stands for prepare to bid at the tax sale. And the last S in STEPS is show up at this tax sale and bid. Okay? So if you would like to go over what we talked about last month in that webinar, the name of the webinar was why smart investors are choosing tax liens in 2012, and the replay of that, I believe, is you can find out about it on my blog at taxlieninvestingtips.com. And you can even just, if you go to taxlieninvestingtips.com, there's a category list on the right side, and there is a category for webinar replays. So if you just click on webinar replays or webinars, you can find it, and it will give you a link to a website where you can go and get the replay. Okay. So now we've talked about how to not how to, but what is a tax lien. Now we're going to talk about protecting your investment. So now we're going to talk about the 3 myths about tax lien investing. And the reason why I'm talking about this now in protecting your investment is because many people email me or contact me, and they want to get involved in tax liens. They want to know what programs I have, do I have coaching, they want to start investing now because they need money right away. They're in a jam, a financial jam, and they need money right away. And so here are the myths that I don't want you to fall for, and then I have to email them back and say, well, you know, this is not a get-rich-quick scheme. This is an investment, and you might have to wait, in some cases, years before you get your profit. And so let's go over some of these myths so that you don't get taken by them. The first one is that you can start making money with only $200, okay? Yes, you can buy a lien with less than $200. You certainly can do that. But how much money do you think you're going to make, even if you're getting 18% of $200, okay? And you're going to have to wait a few months to get that, all right, in a best case scenario. So you see, it's not really a money-making scheme. And people want to know, they want to quit their job and they want to start tax lien investing as a way to make an income. Well, can you make an income with tax lien investing? Well, certainly you can. How much money would you have to have invested at 18%? You know, I'm using that as, and we can even be more conservative and say 15%. How much money would you have to have invested at 15% to live on it. Okay, probably you'd need at least, depending on how you live, how you want to live, probably need at least a $250,000 invested in order to live on it. Okay, something to think about. And even if you have that much to invest, it takes you a little while to get that money invested. All right. Now one of the pet peeves I have about tax lien investing, some of these tax lien investing so-called experts out there that get people all hyped up about it, is that they throw out the word government guaranteed. And people think that they're guaranteed to get paid on your lien, but this is not true. Remember what I told you. Your interest rate is guaranteed by the state law, by state government, but you're not guaranteed to get paid. Nobody guarantees that you'll get paid. What guarantees you is the property. So you purchase a tax lien, you put a lien on the property, and then if the people don't pay, if the owner of the property doesn't redeem the lien, you get to foreclose on the property. Okay, so it's the property that guarantees your lien. It doesn't mean that you're guaranteed to get paid. So you can't just go out there and buy tax liens without doing your homework and your due diligence, because if you buy a lien on an unbuildable lot, for instance, it probably won't redeem. You'll probably get to foreclose on it, and then how are you going to get your money out? Who are you going to sell it to then? Okay, so that's why it's important to do your due diligence. Okay, another myth. There were infomercials going back a ways where they showed these pretty pictures of houses, and they said, well, so-and-so bought this tax lien for $500 and they got this $150,000 house, or they got this $80,000 house. Folks, that doesn't happen. Think about it. If you owed $500 of taxes and you had a house worth $100,000, don't you think you would get a loan for $500? Even though credit is tight today, don't you think you'd come up with $500 from somewhere? And if you had a mortgage on that house, don't you think the mortgage company would pay that and take that out? Now, and this one particular infomercial that I've seen, Inside Edition did an expose on them, and what they found is the houses they were showing were actually knockdowns when they were purchased. They were purchased as a tax lien for a small amount of money, but you have to realize that then you have to pay the taxes for the rest of the redemption period. Now, when they bought these liens, they were over-the-counter liens. The houses had been vacant for years, and they were knockdowns. And they had to put in one case, another $40,000 before they actually had a decent home and were able to sell it. So, what they're telling you and the truth are sometimes two different things. The rule of thumb is if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Okay. And later on, I'm going to tell you exactly what you can expect from tax liens. I'm going to show you how I made this past year, in 2011, almost another $10,000 just from interest income from tax liens. And these are only the ones that I use my after-tax money. In other words, not my retirement account, but the liens that I actually go out and purchase for myself with my own money. All right, so now let's talk. We talked about preparing to purchase good liens. We talked about what a tax lien is. We talked about protecting your money by not falling for the myths about tax liens. So now let's talk about, well, how do you profit from a tax lien? All right, well, here is the tax lien process, the tax lien investing process. And you guys that have been on my webinars, you've seen this before, but again, bear with me. We're going to go through this again for the new people. You purchase a tax lien or redeemable deed at the tax sale. Then once you purchase the lien or the deed, you record it with the county clerk. Now, some states will do this for you and you'll pay for it when you purchase your lien. Other states, you have to do it yourself. You have to send the certificate in to the county clerk with the right amount of money to record it. Again, some states do this for you. Sometimes you have to do it yourself. Then, once the lien or deed is recorded, you want to pay the subsequent taxes. Now, let me just say, you don't have to with a tax lien. However, it's in your best interest to do that, except in the state of Florida. You do not pay your subsequent taxes in Florida until the redemption period's over. And see, in Florida, you don't actually get to foreclose on the lien. What happens is it goes into a tax deed sale. So you apply for the deed, you apply for the lien to go into a deed sale, and at that point, then you pay all the subsequent taxes, but you don't get to pay them until then. In other states, you can pay the subsequent taxes. Some states will give you the maximum interest rate on your subsequent taxes. And so, definitely it's to your advantage to pay them as soon as you can. Some states only do once a year, some states twice a year. In New Jersey, where I invest, they're due quarterly, and you can pay them as soon as they're delinquent, which is 10 days after the day that they're due. Some states will force the investors, not all counties in that state, and I'm talking about Arizona. Some counties in Arizona actually force you to pay the subsequent taxes, because if you don't, they will sell your lien along with the current lien in next year's sale. So you'll just get paid on your lien the following year, but you won't be able to keep it. You won't be able to control that property and keep it. So the only way you can keep that lien is by paying the subsequent taxes. And also in Arizona, they don't have a clear priority of liens. So it's good to pay the subsequent taxes. You don't want, in the counties that don't force you to pay your subsequent taxes, you don't want somebody else to get a lien on a property that you have a tax lien on. And the way you control that is just by paying your subsequent taxes. Then it won't wind up in next year's tax sale, right? So the next thing that you do is you wait out the redemption period, and either the lien redeems or you foreclose. And we're going to talk more about this. This is actually how you profit, how you get paid on your tax lien. So here's how you make money. 3 ways you can make money on a tax lien. And right now we're not talking about deeds or redeemable deeds. We're talking about liens. 90% of the time, your lien is going to redeem. All right, actually more than 90% of the time. In New Jersey, where I invest, it's 99% of the time. Most states, it's at least 90% of the time. And we're talking liens here, not redeemable deeds. Now, if it doesn't redeem, you get to foreclose. That's the second way that you profit, is you don't get your money back, you don't get any interest, but you get the property, which is worth a lot more, okay, if you did your homework. Now, in most states, you need to use an attorney for this. Some states you don't, but most states you do. Now, there is another way you can profit, and that is you can assign your lien to another investor or sell it to another investor. Most states do allow you to do this. And, if you don't want to wait for your lien to redeem, or let's say the redemption period is over, but you don't want to spend the money on a lawyer to foreclose, you can sell your lien to another investor. Okay, so now I want to show you some actual results that I had in 2011. Okay, these 2 checks were written to my husband. I buy liens both in my name, my husband's name, and a business name. And you could see the amounts of these checks, and these were both received in October of last year. These were 2 different liens from White Township. One check was for close to $4,000, and the other one was over $12,655. Okay, but that doesn't really tell you this. That just tells you how much money we got back. It doesn't tell you what the interest was, because remember, when you get your checks back from these municipalities or counties, this is also the money that you paid in. Okay, it's not all pure interest. So here are the tax returns, the interest income that was actually made. All right, now I've blocked out the numbers here, but the income here was actually a little over 11,000, almost 12,000 on one, and a little over 5,000 on the other one. Okay, so not bad, over $6,000 from 2 liens in one municipality. Well, I also had another lien redeem, and this redeemed in September, and that was for, I don't actually have the copy of the check. This was the statement from Frenchtown Borough, and that was for over $7,000, but let's see how much of that was actual interest. Okay, the actual interest on this one was over $3,000, about 3,274. All right, that was the actual interest on this. So basically, and this one was in my name. Basically, what I did was I made close to $10,000, just under $10,000 in interest for 2011 on those 3 liens. Okay, and you know, not a killing. I didn't make a killing. It's not like real estate investing where you can go out and make thousands and thousands of dollars on one deal. But if you have enough deals like that, you can make a nice extra income. You know, how many of you would like just another $10,000 a year for doing very little work? Let me remind you that I do not, because of the training that I do and my websites, I don't have time to go to tax sales anymore. So I only go to a handful of tax sales a year. And the other investing that I do is through my self-directed IRA. So what I did, those were the ones that I do for myself with after-tax money. So, you know, it's a nice little income. And what do I do with that money? Well, you should reinvest it, right? And I know that, but I also have an investment property, and I have to pay the taxes on that property, because the one thing I learned from this business is that you have to pay your taxes. So that's where some of that money went, and some of that money went for tuition payment, for part of a tuition payment for my son. But now what we're going to talk about is finding the tax sale information. So how do you get started? Well, the first thing you have to do is find the tax sale information. So you do that by contacting the county or municipal office that's responsible for the tax sale. So how do you find out who that is and get the phone number or the address or the email address? Well, I use taxsaleresources.com, and if you're a member of taxlienlady.com, of my members area, you get a membership to Tax Sale Resources with your membership to taxlienlady.com. And what they have on Tax Sale Resources are links to all the county links to the county, you know, tax collector's website, the assessor's website, so you could do your due diligence or some of your due diligence. And they also have tax sale lists. Sometimes they'll have the free list that the county provides right there. Other times you just have to go to their link to the county tax collector or county treasurer and get it there. And they also have enhanced lists for some states, and you can purchase enhanced lists that cut down your due diligence immensely. That's where I get my lists for New Jersey. You don't always have to purchase lists. It just depends on the size of the list, because, you know, the bigger the list, the more expensive they are. So when I go to small sales, some of those lists are only $5, $10, $15. I'll buy them. But if it's a large sale, I sometimes won't purchase the enhanced list. I'll get the free list and work off of that. But then I have to do all the work on the properties that I want to do my due diligence on, and it's a little more tedious. So then I just narrow it down. I narrow the properties that I want to do due diligence on to only, you know, 1, 2, or 3 municipalities or townships. Now the other place, if you don't have a membership to Tax Sale Resources, another place you could go to find the links to the county websites is naco.org. And NACO stands for the National Association of Counties, and if you go to this website, it's got a lot of links on it. It's kind of confusing, but if you go to, there's a link that says Find a County. On one of the tabs, if you mouse over it, you'll see a link that says Find a County, and you go there, and you'll get a map of the country, and you'll click on a state, and it'll list all the counties, and you could go to the county website that way. You can also get demographic information about the county, which I find very helpful, especially if you're a deed investor and you're buying properties. Why? Because if I'm buying properties or even liens, I want to buy properties in areas that are increasing in population, not decreasing in population. I want to know that I'm going to be able to sell that deed if I purchase it, right? So, and that the value of property is going up, not down. So that's one way that I use to tell for good areas to invest. I look at the demographic information, specifically population over the last few years. So, all right, so I've given you some options into where to find the tax lists, where to find the tax sale info, because sometimes you can find a lot of that information online on the tax collector's website. So I've given you a couple of options to go there. But what about the online tax sales? How do you find out about them? Well, I do have a course called Buying Tax Liens Online that lists all the counties that have online sales, and it's updated every year. We're going to update it again next April, so the people in my members area will have access to that. Now, that's a training that I don't offer to everybody, only to members and people that purchase the Buying Tax Liens Online course. And again, that course comes with a guide that lists every county that has the online tax sales with the link to the website where they do it. But here are just a few of the online auctioneers websites that you could go to look for information. Now for deed sales, bidforassets.com has a lot of the deed sales. Okay. SRIauctionsonline.com covers Indiana. Now, Indiana doesn't really have online sales, okay? Only a couple of counties have their, you know, after they do their regular sale in Indiana, what doesn't sell in that sale goes to the commissioner's tax sale. So those are online, only for a couple of counties. But they do have internet sales, but you actually have to go to the tax sale, physically go to the tax sale and use their computers. Okay, so it's not really an online auction, but they do cover some other online auctions for some other counties and other states, and you can find them at SRIauctionsonline.com. RealAuction.com is another auction company that has a few counties from different states online. They have some counties from Arizona, some counties from Colorado. A lot of the Florida counties are on RealAuction.com. Now remember that these auction websites are not always available because they're closed except for when the auction's going on. Right now, the Florida auctions will be coming up in May, so they'll probably open up in April or the end of April, or maybe not even until May, but that's where you'll be able to. And if you go to realauction.com, you can see, you know, it'll list when those auctions will open if they're closed now. But the Arizona sales, there might be a couple of those still going on, but they're pretty much in February, so they're pretty much over. And then the Florida sales will start in May. They'll be over by June 1st. Most of them are over. And then Colorado sales are in the fall. Okay, and then there is one Nebraska county, Douglas County, that just started having an online sale, and I believe it just ended. I know it was just around now. Okay, let's see what else we have here. Here's another website, taxcertsale.com, and I forget which online sales they have there, but that's also an online, and there are others, but again, in that Buying Tax Liens Online program, that lists every website for every county, not just the auction sites like this, but each individual county website for the actual tax sale. And that Buying Tax Liens Online course is available at buyingtaxliensonline.com. You could find out more about it there. Not really going to talk about that today. Okay, so now let's get into getting over the obstacles that are holding you back. So what's holding you back? And I'm just going to, before I go any further, I went over a lot of information, so I just want to check and see if I need to clear anything up, if we've had any questions about that, about what I've gone over. And I know I checked in the beginning to make sure everybody could hear me, and Yeah, I see that Ryan had asked, have I ever used a self-directed IRA to purchase tax liens? And yes, I do. As I mentioned earlier, that I don't do it myself too much anymore. I actually invest in a fund that does the investing for me, and that is through my self-directed IRA. And we have some other specific questions here. Somebody said they couldn't find tax, let's see, what was taxcertsale.com. They got an error. I'll have to check that later, Derek, and find out if I did something wrong. If it's maybe not a .com, maybe it has a different extension. I'll find that out, and I'll let people know when I post the replay. I'll let you know. Oh, and somebody said they thought Texas was the highest interest, 25% for 6 months. Yeah, but Texas is not a tax lien state. Texas is a tax deed state. It's actually a redeemable deed in Texas, so it's a little bit different. But Illinois is the highest tax lien state with 18% every 6 months. You need more money for tax deeds than you do tax liens, okay, even for redeemable deeds. And, you know, Ron asks, what's better to get started, tax liens or tax deeds? And that all depends. We're going to talk, we'll talk about that a little bit. Now, I'm not going to answer all these questions in detail tonight. I won't be able to do that, but I will be able to tell you where you can go to get the answers. Okay, and here's a good question. My state doesn't have tax liens, and I want to stay away from online as I am a newbie. Well, then you're either going to have to travel to another state. There's not much else you could do, unless you have enough money to have somebody else do it for you. I mean, you can invest with a tax lien agent or a tax lien fund. And that would be better, since you're a newbie, is to have somebody experienced do it for you. And somebody wants the name of that fund that I invest in. That will be, again, you'll find that information on my blog, taxlieninvestingtips.com. There is a category there for tax lien agents and tax lien funds, and you can invest with either through your self-directed IRA. Okay, and I'm not going to tell you more about the fund now, because that's not my purpose tonight. I have some other things to do. Okay, but again, you can find out about it on the blog, and I'll give you some other ways to find out more about it too. As a matter of fact, the seminar that I'm having on April 14th, the fund manager will be there to talk to you about that. Okay, tax cert sale redirects you to the Florida tax sale portal. Okay, that could be. I haven't been there in a while. Okay, so let me get on to what's holding you back here. Let's continue with our presentation, and then if we do have time for more questions, I'll answer more questions. We'll see. But first, I want to get to the stuff that you told me was holding you back and preventing you from investing in tax liens. And what most of you said is that you didn't have enough knowledge in one way or another. Here's the different ways that you said it. You know, I don't have enough knowledge, I don't understand the process, I don't know how to find liens, I don't know how to do due diligence, I don't know how to do it in my IRA. So those all indicate to me that you don't know enough, or you think you don't know enough. And another one is, I don't know how to do it online. All right, so if you don't have enough knowledge and you don't understand the process, you can come to my webinars. I've been doing these webinars, and you've seen where I showed you what the process is for tax liens and how you profit from a tax lien. So, and on my blog, there's a lot of information on my blog. And here's the thing, you don't need a lot of knowledge. When I did this, I didn't really know anything. There was one book in print about tax liens, and it was at least 15 years old. Now it's been reprinted, and that's the 16% solution. Okay, and it didn't have any information, any specific information for my state at all. I had to go find out for myself. It's not rocket science, folks. You can do it. You just got to take the first step. And if you think you need more education, I am here to help you. I'm having a one-day seminar, April 14th. I'll tell you more about that later. I also have courses that will help you, and I have a new coaching program that I'm going to unveil at the conference on April 14th. But, you know, like I said, it's not rocket science, and you don't know how to do due diligence. Okay, that's something that you do need to know how to do. And my course goes over step by step how to do that. And if you don't know how to do it in your IRA, we will talk about that. As a matter of fact, at the course, at the seminar on April 14th, I'm going to have a lawyer there talk about the best way to invest tax liens in a retirement account, and problems that you might have in your IRA. Now, I have two different SEP IRAs that I do invest in tax liens, and I do it in a fund. Now, you have to invest in the fund that I'm invested in, you need, they have a minimum of investment of $25,000. And the reason why I'm really not going to talk about that too much tonight is they don't even have an opening right now. And the other funds that I know of have minimums of, you know, $50,000 or $100,000. So it's not for everybody. But in this seminar that I'm doing April 14th, I will have the fund manager of the fund that I invest in there, and she will talk to you about that. Also, the fund name, by the way, is Comian. Again, they do not have a fund opening right now. They do private funds, and when they do have an opening, my members are the first to find out about it because they fill up fast. Okay? So that's one way to do it in your IRA without having to worry about constantly asking for money, needing checks or money wires or stuff like, because that's the difficult thing with an IRA. But again, I am going to have an attorney, and he's flying out here from Arizona to talk about the best way to do it in your retirement account. Okay? Now, if you don't know how to do it online, again, I have the Buying Tax Liens Online course that takes you through how to do it online with videos, how to register for the sale, you know, how to do your due diligence online, how to bid. So it's, you know, it's I'm not going to say it's easy, it's simple. It's easy to learn, but yes, there's some work involved. You have to do it. You know? Okay, so let's go on. I just want to see if we have any more comments about this problem of not having enough education. And I've got a comment or question here that I really don't understand. And Sandish, I really don't understand your comment, so you can email me later, and we can talk about that. Okay. All right, so let's go on to some more things this is what some other people said. Now, for most people, it was the not having enough education part, okay, not having enough knowledge. But for other people, there were other things that are holding you back. Some of you don't have time. You just don't have the time to do the due diligence or to go to the tax sale, all right? And that I understand. And some of you don't have enough money to invest with an agent or fund, because remember, I told you that the minimum was $25,000 for the fund. and it's $20,000 for the agent that I recommend, right? So, you know, some of you don't have that much to get started. And if that's your position, you can start tax liens with a little bit of money, but you have to do it yourself. And then you need the time. You either have to have the time or the money, all right? So that can be a problem. You need one or the other. But for, now another problem, and I'll show you in a minute, one of my clients, one of my members who doesn't have the time, who's been able to invest successfully. But here's something else that, and these are actual things that people told me that have signed up for this seminar. Some of them aren't on tonight because of the time difference, because they're in another country. Either they're living, working outside of the country, or deployed in Afghanistan, okay, and they don't know, they can't travel to do the inspection on the properties, to do the due diligence. So that's their problem, is they have to travel. Okay, and that is a legitimate concern, because a lot of these, some of these tax sales are live sales. You have to actually show up. So what if you're in a deed state and you want to invest in liens? Well, here's what you can do. You can see if there's any nearby states that have tax liens, or is there somewhere where you vacation that has tax liens, or do you have relatives in a state that has tax liens? Or the other alternative is to do it online, or another alternative is to invest with an agent or a fund. But again, you need a minimum amount of money to do that, of, you know, $20,000 to $25,000. You can also, you know, the way some people do it is by using the money in their retirement account. They might not have that money sitting around. They might not have $20,000 of cash to work with, but they have that money in their retirement account. And there are ways, if you have 401k, that you can roll that over into an account that you can touch, you can use. If you have a business, any kind, you can have a solo 401k. And in the conference that I'm having on April 14th, Tim Berry, who is the attorney that I'm going to have come and speak, and actually I'm going to have him do a webinar in March. I'm going to have him do a webinar, and he is going to talk about that, and he's going to talk about how you can be your own custodian of your own solo 401k. Okay. But if you are in another country, now I have clients and I have members that are in I have a member in London, I have a member in Spain, I have had members in New Zealand and Australia. So, and they invest online. You can invest in the online tax sales without physically looking at the property. You're a little constrained because you either need to have somebody that can look at it for you, or if you're just going to go buy you know, satellite photos, then you need to concentrate on residential properties and not do, I advise that you don't invest in land if you're doing it like that, but it can be done. And again, if you're worried about traveling for inspection, you can always invest in these online tax sales. Now, you can't do it all the time because, as I mentioned before, they are seasonal. Right now, the Arizona sales are ending in May. The Florida sales will start in the fall. The Colorado sales will start. But you know what? There are new counties going online all the time. Nebraska, this past year, just had one county, Douglas County, went online. Maryland has, well, Baltimore's been online. Maryland has had a couple of counties online. Well, they've just had a couple of other counties go online this past year. As a matter of fact, I have to update that. That's what we're going to do in April in the Buying Tax Liens Online course. So you can do it even if you don't live in this country or work in this country. Okay. So here's some tax lien successes. This is, and this, by the way, is the front of my business card. This is a picture of Bibi Lou. She is an attorney in New York City. So she does not have time to invest in tax liens. And she says, thanks to what I've learned from Joanne, I've been able to invest in tax lien certificates without doing the work myself, and I'm thrilled with the returns I'm getting. Now, she is investing in a fund. And here's some others. This is from Arian Thomas in Arizona. Because of you, I have successfully invested in tax liens for 3 years now, and I'm very pleased with the results. Thanks so much, Joanne. And this is Bill Preston in Florida. To date, after 2 months, I've purchased 14 tax lien certificates, 10 in Arizona, 4 in Florida, along with 2 for someone who rewarded me with payment as I followed your lead and made it a win-win situation for us both. Thanks again. You know what? And this brings me to one of the things some people just don't have the cash. And they tell me they want to invest in tax liens, but they don't have any money. Well, first of all, this is an investment. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's an investment. It's something I use instead of the stock market. But if you don't have money and you want to make money, what you can do is you learn about tax liens and do it for other people. I did that when I started. I invested for somebody else, and he paid me, by the way, per sale I went to, and for the due diligence, I charged them X amount for due diligence and by the sale, and X amount for going to the sale. So you just have to weigh it and make sure it's profitable for both you and the person that you're doing this for. Okay, but it's one way to make money from tax lien investing without actually investing your own money, investing somebody else's, but getting paid for doing it. Okay? All right, so here's how you can get the education in one day, all right, to get you started. And my theme again for this year is Prepare, Protect, Profit in 2012, and that is the theme of my conference. It's at Shawnee Inn and Golf Resort. It's in northeastern Pennsylvania. It's in Shawnee on Delaware, PA, which is minutes from New Jersey, a couple of hours from Connecticut, and about an hour and a half from New York City, from Manhattan. So it's an easy commute from New Jersey, Connecticut, New York, and it's right in eastern Pennsylvania. We're going to talk about tax liens and redeemable deeds and done-for-you investing. Not only will Kate Doherty, the manager of Comian Investment Group, the fund I was talking about, be there, but Charles Sells of Pip West will be there, and Don Fullman of Pip West may be there also. Now, they are the tax lien agent that I recommend. And they're not the only, well, they are going to be, those are the only other speakers. Them and the lawyer that I told you about, Tim Berry. And it will just be me in the morning doing training, and they'll be speaking in the afternoon. But I will also have a couple other people there that they won't be speaking, but they'll be there to answer questions for you. I will have, and I'm not confirmed about this, but some people that deal with tax deeds and purchasing tax deeds, and then a tax title company that deals with certifying titles to tax deed properties. So people that you may be interested in talking to. Now, we're also going to talk about how to automate your tax lien investing and investing with your retirement account, the best way to do that, and protecting your retirement account, okay, protecting your retirement. Now, the price to come to the seminar is $97. It's for the entire day. It includes breakfast and lunch. You can find out more about the conference at taxlienlady.com conference, okay? And if you'd like to go for free, I'll show you how you could do that. You can attend the conference for free if you're one of my students. And if you have my Build Your Profitable Tax Lien Portfolio course, that is my 8-lesson step-by-step tax lien investing course. It has 8 webinar recordings. You get instant access. It's downloaded to your computer. It has a student website that you have access to. And by the way, you have lifetime access, and you get lifetime updates when you purchase any of my courses. And you also get to come to my seminars for free. Bonus videos, you get my state guide with the course. There are documents and checklists for doing your due diligence, all kinds of stuff in this course. You get 1 hour of personal coaching with me, 2 months complimentary membership to the Tax Lien Lady members area. And the value of this is more than $1875.90, and it's more than that because there's things that I find it hard to put a value on, like lifetime updates, lifetime access to the student site, and lifetime support from from me, email support from me. Okay, but I'm not going to charge you that much money. This course sells for $4.97. Okay, and you can get it at taxlienlady.com/student.html. All right, that is where you can get this course. Okay, now let me go over like what is in those 8 sessions so that you know exactly whether you want this course or not, whether it's something you want or not. Okay, the first session is on the basics of tax lien investing. Okay, the second session is on getting the tax sale info. So what we talked about tonight, getting the tax sale info, this goes more in depth on getting the tax sale information and gives you more than just the few links I gave you today. All right, and then lesson 3 is on doing your due diligence. So I really go over how to do your due diligence. There's checklists there. And then preparing for the tax sale. There's sample documents for preparing for the tax sale. I show you how to track your tax liens, how to prepare a due diligence sheet and a bid sheet for the taking with you to the tax sale. And lesson 5 is on bidding at the tax sale. We go over bidding strategies, again using a bid sheet. You get a sample bid sheet. Protecting your investment is lesson 6. We talk about what to do once you purchase a tax lien or tax deed. Okay, the first 5 lessons are just on what you have to do to actually get a lien or deed, and then in lesson 6 we talk about what do you do after you get a lien or deed. Okay, nobody talks about that. I talk about that. And then how you actually make money. Lesson 7, cashing in. What happens when the lien redeems? Or what do you do when you foreclose? Or what do you do when you assign it to another investor? How do you make your money? And then in lesson 8, we review everything, and I give you some advanced strategies for making money with tax delinquent properties. Okay? Now again, it's at taxlienlady.com/student.html. All right. So any questions about the conference or about the build your profitable getting tongue-tied, build your profitable portfolio, tax lien portfolio course. All right, so oh yeah, I had a special last week. Somebody asked me for the conference, any chance of offering this at $14.95 like you did the other week, or $29 today, since you know what, I do offer it for $29, Derek. If you're a member of taxlienladies.com's members area, you get to come for $29. Membership is $49.95 a month. And anybody that's interested in membership can go to now I don't have this in the presentation, so you got to take this down, okay? At www.taxlienlady.com/membership with a capital M, Main, M-A-I-N with a capital M, .htm, okay? That's where you can go and find out about membership. And once you purchase your membership, then on the member site you'll see a link to go to get into the conference for only $29. And that just about pays for your breakfast and lunch. Okay. All right, so again, let me give that to you again if anybody's interested in becoming a member. It's www.taxlienlady.com/membership with a capital M, Main, M-A-I-N with another capital M, .htm. And somebody asked, will the conference be in Orlando? No, Migdalia, it's in northeastern PA. I mentioned that earlier. I'll go back to that. I'll go back to that slide in a minute and show that. Future conferences, yes. They will probably be here as well in PA, close to where I live. And if this conference does well, which I think it will, I'm going to expand it to a 2-day conference and have it in the fall when it's really beautiful up here. So let me go back. Oh, and somebody asked about the closest airport. All right, I'll tell you what. Let me go back to that slide showing you about the conference, and I can talk more about that. So let me just go back there, and it is 10 o'clock, so I'm not going to keep you too much longer. All right, let's see. Go back to the conference. Okay. So it's at Shawnee Inn and Golf Resort. It's in eastern Pennsylvania. It's in northeastern Pennsylvania, minutes from New Jersey. Okay. The closest airport, it's only an hour away from the Allentown Bethlehem Airport. But for most people to fly in here, they'll probably going to want to go to Newark because Newark's a bigger airport. They'll be able to get a direct flight to Newark. Newark is about an hour and 15 minutes away, but you will need to rent a car because there's not a lot of public transportation here. There is, but it's just a lot easier to rent a car. The Inn, Shawnee Inn and Golf Resort, I do have a block of rooms reserved at a discounted rate. It comes to about, with taxes and fees and everything, about $150 a night to stay at the Shawnee Inn and Golf Resort. It's a beautiful place. If you go to that website, taxlienlady.com/conference, I don't have any pictures up there now, but I will be putting them up there, pictures of the resort. And let's see if there's any other questions before we wrap this up. So this question box is really small, and I have to expand it every time I want to look at the questions. Does the Build Your Profitable Tax Lien Portfolio go over the online tax liens? No, that is the Buying Tax Liens online course. That's the one that has all the links to all the online tax sales. And I'll tell you a secret. If you become a member, like I was talking about the membership before, you get that course as a bonus after you're a member for 2 months. All right, the course is $197, so it's a great deal because for 2 months you've only paid like $99, and you get that and 2 other courses. So if you want to get that Buying Tax Liens online course, join the members area, and then you can go to the conference for only $29. That's really the best deal. How much money do you need to start investing? Good question, Deborah. That all depends on how much time you have to invest and whether you can do it yourself and whether you live in a state where you can go to the tax sales yourself. You can start with very little money, as I mentioned before. It's just that you're not going to make a lot of money. All right? The more money you invest, the more money you'll make. Okay? So it kind of depends on what state you're in. If you're in a lien state, you don't need as much money as you do in a deed state. If you're going to invest in deeds, you need a few $1,000s, okay? With liens, I think it's good to have a couple $1,000s to start because you do want to pay your subsequent taxes in most states except in Florida. But you can, certainly you could start with less than that in these online sales. But, think about it. If you're buying a tax lien for $200, what kind of house has taxes of only $200? Mostly not a house at all. It's just land, okay? So, when you think about it, it makes sense to have a little bit more money than that to invest. Where do I get tax sale lists for Texas auctions? Again, first of all, most Texas auctions are done by law firms. There's a couple of law firms that do that. You could find the links to them at taxsaleresources.com. You can also buy the lists from taxsaleresources.com, or you can just get them from the law firms. You could get them online. And again, you could get the links to them at taxsaleresources.com. Are tax deeds hard to obtain? It depends on what you mean by hard to obtain. I suggest that if you're in a tax deed state, you go to sale in that state and find out. all right, because it's different in different states. Oh, Joyce is going to sign up as a member. She already paid to sign up. You know what, Joyce? I don't give any refunds for the conference. If you've already signed up for the conference, I don't give refunds for the conference. What you can do is transfer your ticket to somebody else. You could give it to somebody else, and but I don't give refunds for the conference. Sorry about that. And you know, part of that is just because the conference is really cheap to begin with. Okay, are there any other questions that I didn't get to? All right, somebody asked about people outside of North America. How can they become a tax lien investor? There's got to be a procedure. You know, I get asked about this a lot. And here's the thing that you need if you're outside of the U.S. and you want to buy tax liens in the U.S. The only thing you need is a U.S. Identification number, a Social Security number, or an ITIN number is what most foreigners get. You have to apply for that at the IRS website, irs.gov. And you need a bank account in the U.S. So you have to open a bank account in the U.S. Those are the two things that you absolutely need. However, if you invest, this is what I recommend for foreigners. This is the easy button, okay, for foreigners. Invest through a fund or through an agent. Then you don't need a U.S. bank account. All you need is that ITIN number. And again, you can apply for that through irs.gov. All right. Okay. I think I've answered all your questions. Dean asked if somebody pays for the 2-month membership, can they get the access to the online course, Buying Tax Liens Online, prior to 2 months because they want to do it now because of the Florida sales? Dean, you know how you can do that? If you sign up for a year membership, you get everything at once. You get all the bonuses, you get everything. And if you go to that website that I gave you, there's a link there at the bottom to sign up for a year. You also save 2 months two months worth of membership, like $99 by doing that. Okay. And I've got some other questions here. Deborah, I don't quite understand your last question, and it's about 7 minutes after, so I want to close this. You know, I love answering your questions, but I don't want to do this all night because I'm in my bedroom doing this webinar, so we don't get any background noise, and so I don't want to keep my husband up too late, you know. He might want to go to bed. Okay, because here on the East Coast it is after 10 o'clock. I know you guys that are on Pacific time, it's 3 hours earlier, but that's not the case here. So I want to thank you so much for coming tonight. I would love to see you. Let me just go back to the last slide here. I would love to see you at the conference. And I am hoping this is a successful conference because I do want to have a 2-day conference, because now that I've had this 1-day conference, I think of all these great things and all these great speakers that I could have for you as well. But the idea with this conference is for me to do the training myself. It's not going to be a pitch fest where people are going to sell you courses. The people that are speaking do not have courses to sell. They actually invest your money for you, okay? They actually do it for you. So those are the only other speakers besides me and besides the attorney, who is actually my attorney, that is going to speak. To connect with me, again, you could go to taxlieninvestingtips.com. You'll find a lot of information on there, as well as replays to past webinars that we've done. And you can also connect with me on Facebook at facebook.com/Tax Lien Lady. and Twitter at twitter.com/Tax Lien Lady. So happy and prosperous investing, everybody, and good night, and I hope to see you at the conference. Bye-bye.